In Storage Wars, she appeared out of nowhere. Tough, never gives up, and always willing to battle. However, fans were unaware of the manner in which Brandi Passante's personal life collapsed as a result of her reality TV popularity. A court case involving a revenge porn mogul, a frightening cyberattack, and a painful divorce. Nobody truly realized how terrible Brandi's situation was. She then experienced panic attacks, sought therapy, and had to raise her 2 children alone while maintaining her fame. She had less energy, her voice changed, and then she disappeared for a bit. When the cameras ceased to roll, what actually happened? How did she return? To find out, continue listening. In 1980, she was born in Harris County, Texas. She's well known from Storage Wars. Her life wasn't flawless in every way. Living with many of boys as a child meant that you were frequently pushed around, teased, and had several knocks and bruises. When she published a photo of herself as a child, she even quipped that the black eye was only a result of her early training. According to Brandi, she had a difficult upbringing and frequently felt different from her own family. At times, she even wondered whether she had been adopted. If you're enjoying this video, don't forget to like, share it with your friends, and subscribe to the channel for more amazing content. And hit the bell icon so you never miss an update. Now, back to the topic. What we were talking about was. But despite all the confusion, one thing was evident. It seemed to her that she was destined for more. Anything less was not acceptable to her. She has been with Jared Schultz for a long time. They were employed at the same carpet cleaning business when they first met in 1999. When Schultz joked that she was after him, Brandi quickly corrected him. It took some time for their connection to begin. According to Brandi, it took her some time to warm up to him. Nevertheless, Jared persevered, sometimes excessively. He might be unpleasant, so a friend of theirs even posted notes on his truck to remind him to be kinder to Brandi. According to Schultz, he utilized charm and humor to get by because he wasn't attractive. Despite the fact that Jared was her supervisor at the time, they eventually became friends. Despite never being married, they did raise Cameron and Peyton, their 2 children, together. Although they have mostly kept their children out of the spotlight, Brandi has discussed the serious health issues that both of her children faced. At birth, Paige was deaf and had a cleft soft lip. Amazingly, her hearing improved after having surgery on her ears when she was just 6 weeks old. Over time and with speech therapy, she made incredible progress. She eventually joined the cheer squad, which greatly increased her self-confidence and aided in the development of her speech. Cameron experienced hardships as well. During a routine test for a urinary issue, doctors discovered a tumor on his kidney. He was then admitted to the Children's Hospital of Orange County for 3 months. He missed a few years of high school at that period. Following the birth of their children, Jared tried his hand at banking while Brandi looked after the children. But taking a vacation from work left her feeling depressed and alone. She wanted to feel like she had a purpose outside of being a mother, even though she loved her children. When the recession struck and Jared lost both his employment and any benefits he was receiving, it was that opportunity. They were forced to take a hint from Jared's aunt, who operated a storage facility and informed them that empty units were put up for sale. With the intention of selling the boxes for cash, the couple started bidding on them. They soon ran out of storage space. Even the fact that they were nearly on hoarders was ridiculed by Brandi. Because things got so terrible, the city really threatened to penalize them if they didn't clean up. They launched a secondhand store named Now and Then as a result of that pressure. Unbelievably, this store was the catalyst for their big TV debut. Even as their small thrift store began to thrive, Brandi and Jared continued to attend storage unit sales, where they soon gained notoriety. Jared met a TV director who was developing a concept for a new reality show during one of those auctions. Storage Wars would be born because of that concept. The same director returned after a while, but this time he was accompanied by a crew of cameramen. At Now and Then, Brandi and Jared's shop, they were merely there to shoot some test footage. The producer immediately recognized Brandi, who was working at the front desk at the moment. Jared recalls that they inquired about her identity and whether she would consent to being filmed. Their fortuitous encounter became the beginning of something far more significant than either of them had anticipated. The first episode of Storage Wars used footage taken at their store. At the time, nobody could have predicted how well-liked the show would become. All they were required to do, according to Brandi later, was appear briefly on camera. They had no idea what would occur. However, the first episode of the show aired in 2010 to 2 million viewers. They doubled in height by 2012. On reality TV, what started out as a little opportunity to draw attention to their secondhand store became a huge event for both Brandi and Jared. Nevertheless, their feelings were altered by their celebrity. Jared stated that they never truly intended to be TV stars, while Brandi claimed that suddenly being in the spotlight was both a blessing and a curse. They had to simultaneously shoot, manage their store, and raise their children, which put them under a lot of stress behind the scenes. Brandi commented on how difficult their relationship was, despite the fact that they were constantly together, at work, at home, and on set. After some contentious debates, they eventually discovered a pattern. They could at least utilize the sharing lane, remarked Jared, who usually looks for the positive side of things. However, neither of them anticipated the negative aspects of celebrity. In a podcast, Brandi discussed how things changed after the show gained popularity. Suddenly, she began receiving unsettling fan letters. She had to relocate to a gated community in order to feel safe because things had become so horrible. More stress was to come. She occasionally had to attend therapy merely to cope with her excessive worry. The tension was increased by having a baby on top of everything else. Brandi had to juggle long shoot days with being a parent to her 2 children, Cameron and Peyton. At one point, she described how difficult it was to arrive home late and wake up at 4 in the morning. It is quite difficult to go through it all again. Along with being the main characters in Storage Wars, she and Jared were also managing 2 stores and raising a family. At best, she added, it was overwhelming. Jared concurred that in addition to managing the company, Brandi was handling the majority of the parenting. Being one of the few female employees in the largely male-dominated field of storage auctions, Brandi had to be tough. Having combative brothers was helpful. She soon discovered that any hint of weakness may be used against her. She became firm and refused to back down. Over time, she demonstrated that she was more than just a group member. On her own, she was powerful. No matter how strong she was, this woman was not prepared for the impending digital storm. The well-known creator of the revenge porn website Is Anyone Up is Hunter Moore. The Hollywood Reporter revealed in October 2012 that Brandi Passante has filed a lawsuit against Hunter Moore. Moore falsely claimed that Passante was in an explicit film that he posted online. At that time, the term deepfake was unknown to the majority of people. Moore, on the other hand, was already utilizing misleading information to deceive people, making it difficult to distinguish between what was true and what was made up. According to reports, Passante discovered the video after receiving numerous ominous messages from people discussing it on Twitter, formerly known as X. According to her lawsuit, the movie contained a virus that might harm people's devices in addition to being defamatory. She claimed that the incident damaged her reputation and caused her emotional, mental, and professional suffering. Moore was asked by the adult entertainment network AVN if he truly wanted people to believe that the lady on the recording was Passante after the lawsuit was made public. They raised doubts by citing instances of comedy and parody being employed in judicial proceedings in the past. At the same time, attorneys from the Metter Law Group claimed that Passante had a copyright theft case. Moore, however, may attempt to use the Digital Millennium Copyright Act to defend himself. As part of her case, Passante requested $2.5 million in damages and even requested a summary judgment, which would have prevented a full trial if the evidence supported one side. However, Moore did not conduct himself in a professional manner during the procedure. According to The New Yorker, he responded to the lawsuit by sending a photo of male genitalia to Passante's attorney. It was a tragic outcome, but the judge ultimately agreed with Passante. Rather than receiving the multi-million-dollar award she had hoped for, Moore was only ordered to pay $750. Judge James Selna determined that the full amount could not be supported by sufficient evidence. Nonetheless, the court issued an order that prevented Moore from sharing the images and videos in the future. Additionally, it was reported that Moore would most likely be responsible for paying Passante's legal fees. At the same time, Passante's career was taking a different turn. In 2014, she and Jared Schultz were cast in the A&E series Brandi and Jared, Married to the Job. They were enjoying the glory of Storage Wars. Hey, Jared and Brandi are the main actors in the 2014 film Married to the Job. The show showed their life outside of auctions. They were depicted planning their 15th wedding together, managing a business, and raising a child. But beyond the jokes and good times, there were indications of genuine stress. The wedding planning swiftly descended into chaos. Jared wasn't really interested, in my opinion. To get it over with, he joked that he may hire a phony husband. He told Brandi to stick to the sale rack while she was dress shopping, which infuriated her, and she vented her rage on tape. There were hints of deterioration in their relationship. It didn't stop there. He believed that teaching their children how to wager as they played pool would be entertaining. Brandi became very upset when he suggested that the house be made into a bar. When Brandi admitted that partnerships occasionally seemed like simply living life to the end with someone, she was being completely honest. The purpose of the broadcast was to demonstrate their love of disputing, and A&E emphasized that crazed enthusiasm. Jared chuckled that their constant fighting gave their disorder a somewhat more tangible appearance. Dave Hester, who co-starred with Brandi in Storage Wars, was among the skeptics who questioned if their parts were recorded, but Brandi was certain that none were. Since neither she nor Jared knew how to behave, she actually believed that writing would have made everything worse. Despite having a humorous sitcom-like feel and a behind-the-scenes view, people didn't enjoy Brandi and Jared, Married to the Job. It was abruptly taken off the air after just one season. The pair returned to Storage Wars, the show that made them famous, to make amends. They then appeared on the Mystery Men show in 2017. When the hosts inquired about the most bizarre item they had ever discovered in a storage area, Jared didn't hesitate. They had opened 5 antique wooden boxes they had purchased at an auction a few days prior. Ziploc containers contained an odd white powder. What was Jared's initial thought? White stuff. He turned to Brandi and remarked, "I'm half joking and half hoping that we just hit it big." However, Brandi, who has always been more realistic, noticed something that caused them to pause. There is a dog tag in one of the crates. Everything made clear at that point. There were no drugs here. They resembled ashes. Pet ashes. There are 5 cartons full of charred dog bodies. Jared, I was taken aback. How many pets did these people have? Brandi claimed she was initially sickened by the discovery but later felt bad about it. They both knew what had to be done. In the hopes that the owners would return and retrieve their cherished pets, they handed in the boxes at the front desk. The abrupt shift from excitement to concern was an odd and solemn moment. More shocks were on the horizon. In real life, the tension between Jared and Brandi was starting to manifest. For a long time, people believed that they were cute on TV because they were always arguing. However, they had split up prior to season 12 in 2018. It was a private and silent affair. In 2019, fans started to see the indications. Jared and Brandi stopped posting on each other's social media accounts. Brandi started posting more photos of herself alone, some of them in bikinis, and she didn't have her engagement band on. After then, there were allegations that Jared had moved on and was seeing Rachel Beckman, a bartender. He had recently purchased the Rush Bar and Grill a few months prior, where she reportedly worked. Although Brandi was occasionally spotted with other men, it never appeared like anything significant was happening. Then, in 2020, Brandi, like everyone else, was enmeshed in the pandemic's pandemonium. She posted a picture of herself organizing her pantry with a large bottle of Maker's Mark in it on Instagram to keep things lighthearted despite California being under lockdown. But it didn't remain humorous. On June 28, she revealed that she had tested positive for COVID-19 in a virtual discussion with the Dad Diary. She was open about her concerns, which included days of severe congestion, constant migraines, and loss of taste buds. She finally reported feeling like herself again on the 12th day. She resumed posting photos from more subdued events around mid-July. However, the issues did not stop there. Brandi shared a heartfelt Instagram message about her father in October of that year. She shared an old photo of him holding her when he was a baby. She spoke honestly and passionately. She referred to herself as a daddy's girl. It was obvious that the loss was very painful because her proud father had never scolded her. Before she posted the post that truly rocked the Storage Wars universe, fans believed they had seen everything. In March 2021, Brandi posted an advertisement for the upcoming Storage Wars season on Twitter, and it received a lot of attention. She made her ex-boyfriend Jared Schultz's face stick out in the photo by overlaying it with a devil emoji. Before the season had begun, that courageous action set the tone. In her interview with Distractify, Brandi expressed how much she enjoyed being single, particularly when it came to filming. When she said that she was more excited about this season than any other, especially since several of her friends would be accompanying her, she sounded excited. Fans recognized the group when the 2021 season arrived following the pandemic. Ivy Calvin, Renee and Casey Nozota, Kenny Crossley, Daryl Sheets, and even Barry Weiss surprised everyone by hosting the sale. Additionally, Dan and Laura Dotson returned to the microphone. What really surprises me, though? Jared and Brandi had returned, but they were not together. Brandi immediately informed them that they were splitting up in episode 1. Jared promptly acknowledged it and added that they would continue to attend sales but would now operate independently. On TV, it was clear that Jared and Brandi were having a rough time. When Jared spent $400 on a unit that Brandi believed to be worthless, she didn't hold back. At that moment, she labeled him a fool. Jared, for his part, appeared to take pleasure in infuriating others, and he even acknowledged that he would most likely bid against her merely to observe the outcome. However, the turmoil wasn't limited to the show. Only a few weeks after the season premiered in April 2021, things took a significant turn off camera. According to TMZ, Jared showed up without warning while Brandi and her pals were in an Orange County club. Witnesses report that the argument immediately became heated. People claim that things became aggressive when Brandi ordered him to leave. The police later verified that Jared had struck her twice. When they arrived, he had already left, but a report had been filed. Jared denied getting physical when the cops went to speak with him again. His attorney anticipated the case would be withdrawn, and he intended to contest the charge. However, various witnesses provided varying accounts. He seldom touched her, according to some, and he never stood up, according to others. In any event, the incident led to Jared being charged with misdemeanor domestic violence attack. He just ceased appearing on Storage Wars after that. He never appeared in another season, but the network never confirmed if he was dismissed. At the same time, Jared began dating Roseheld Mann, a new acquaintance. Conversely, Brandi began to discuss her feelings about the breakup more. She claimed to be emotionally numb as a result of it in an interview on Spirit Talk. However, treatment gave her a clearer perspective. One statement in particular stuck in her memory: she wasn't broken. She was simply temporarily shut down. She declared that she was prepared to fall in love once more, but only if the conditions were suitable for her. The only thing she would not allow to happen in the future was their attempt to dominate her. Brandi shared a somewhat intimate Instagram image later in 2021. An image of the word "free" next to a tiny bird, which she recently got tattooed on her middle finger. The message was evident even though she didn't say everything. She discussed escaping a difficult situation that, in her own words, not everyone survives in the caption. She discussed National Domestic Violence Awareness Month and tagged it with #3AceABird. She had never previously discussed this aspect of her life in public. She didn't identify the person, but it was obvious what she meant. After a very difficult experience, Brandi emerged stronger, more sensitive, and ultimately free.